Good morning and welcome to Melrose Unitarian Universalist Church. Our service today is called Becoming UU. Hello, I am the Reverend Dr. Suzanne Intriligator, and my pronouns are she, her, and hers, and I am blessed to be the minister of this congregation. Our church strives to be a spiritual community for our time, to honor diverse theological perspectives, and to remember that issues of justice and equity shape all that we do. We welcome your whole self to our worship as we build together a community of caring, courage, and hope. Just this morning, as I was crossing our parking lot to come in to the church this morning, a breeze whooshed past me, and the most beautiful aroma just lit up my nose. And I looked and I looked and I realized that it was from the magnolia across the street that's blooming now in front of the library. And I realized, oh my gosh, we've reached the season where I don't even have to look for the flowers. The flowers come and find me. What a blessing that is, isn't it? So just stopping today to count my blessings. Helping me with our worship this morning is our worship technician, Josh Miller, and our chat box host, Rebecca Mooney. Rebecca, if you will, please share in the chat box now the link to the welcome page on our website. If we have any new folks or visitors today, they can go there to learn more about us and to sign into our digital guest book. Please, everyone, do feel welcome to stay afterward for our online coffee hour. Let me just say, if you contributed to our recent pledge drive, thank you again. Thank you, thank you. Your support is necessary and it's very much appreciated by all of us. If you haven't responded yet to the many texts and phone calls that have been sent out, please do. We need to hear from all of our members in order to plan next year's budget. Thank you. Our worship theme for April is becoming. So we're thinking about growth and change and evolution in this liminal time that we all share together. Next Sunday, April 18th, our annual Green Sanctuary Sunday. That's when our committee, the Green Sanctuary Committee, one of our most vibrant here at the church, will lead us to celebrate Earth Day. The Sunday after that, April 25th, I'll be back in the pulpit preaching about process theology. That's the idea that God is not a person or a being, but a creative process that we all take part in. We are a part of God's becoming. And don't forget that evening, April 25th, we'll see the second installment of our new music series called Opening Doors, Race, Conversation, and Song. So there's a lot going on around here this spring. Now, let's get started by seeing who's with us this morning. It's time to switch to gallery view and scroll through the windows and wave and say hello and welcome to worship on this beautiful spring morning. Hi, everybody. Oh, some of us maybe just waking up. Some smiles look a little tired. Hello, good morning. I see Tenby. Hello. Welcome, everyone. It's good to see you this morning. Thank you. Okay, let's switch back to the other view and let me see where we are. I want to call us to worship this morning with these words about becoming from Susan Mangan, who is a UU minister who serves in the Navy Chaplain Corps. Come into this room, whatever room you're in. Come into it, weigh into this chair. Breathe into this body, the very body that will be you, for better or for worse, in sickness and in health, till death do us part. Come into this day, raise your gaze into this light, this one steadfast sun who watches over all growing beings, even you, even now. Come into this heart and break into the boundlessness of wild beauty, no beginning or ending in you, but flowing through like white water, reaching toward all that ever was and ever shall be. Now, along with UUs everywhere, I will light the symbol of our faith, the flaming chalice. There it is. And as I do so, I invite you to light a candle in your own home, perhaps the one that you got from our caring team last weekend. This morning, our chalice lighting reading will be given by the one and only Ted Aldrich. Ted, are you there?
You gotta turn your audio on.
We light this chalice in honor of first steps, for beginning even when the path ahead is unclear, for the courage it takes to trust that the way will reveal itself, that light will come to clarify our vision, that friends will be by our side. May the words, song, stillness, and common breath of this hour remind us that every step of the way is never one we take alone.
Thank you so much, Ted. Ted asked to do that this morning because his grandparents are visiting. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much. And now let's do some singing to get this all started. Join in as you like.
Please join me in singing our opening hymn, It Sounds Along the Ages. It sounds along the ages, so flattering to soul. It kindles on the pages of every Bible scroll. The psalmist heard and sang it, from martyr lips it broke, and proud the tongue outrang it, till sleeping nation woke. From Sinai's cliffs it echoed, it breathed from Buddha's tree. It showed in Athens market, it hallowed Galilee. The hammer stroke of Luther, the pilgrim's seaside prayer, the oracles of Concord, one holy word declare. It goes and no new justice, it speaks and no new truth. In ever noble stature and unexhausted youth, forever on resounding and knowing not of time, our laws would catch the music of its eternal chime.
Thank you, Tara. Now let us join together in the words of our covenant, followed by the song of aspiration. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth, its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. This is our great covenant, one with another and with our God. Now I pass it off to Katie. Katie, go ahead.
Our story today is from the Storytellers Workshop, an RE offering that I have been doing once a month in close collaboration with Beth Yergrow. After the story are highlights from the discussion we had with the kids that morning about what Unitarian Universalism is, what they learn about in RE, what they know about the principles, and what they like about church. Thank you to the kids for sharing their voices with us, and enjoy. Milo liked numbers. He often found himself counting people when he stood in a line, and he always checked how many pages there were in a book before he started reading it. For Milo, numbers were a way of connecting to the world. So when Milo's family moved halfway across the country, the first thing he did was to Google his new town and check out the numbers. Here's what he found.
Population 9,248.
Schools, 2 elementary schools, 1 middle school, and 1 high school.
Grocery stores 2.
Pizza places, 3.
Movie theaters 1.
Roman Catholic Church, 1.
Lutheran Church 1.
Neighborhood Christian Church, 1.
0 Unitarian Universalist churches like the one his family used to go to.
On the first day at his new school, his social studies teacher, trying to be friendly and welcoming to Milo, asked him what church his family went to. He answered,
Unitarian Universalist.
Everyone, including his teacher, looked at him with the same blank expression. Then the teacher asked,
What's that?
Milo's head flooded with numbers. The number of kids in his Sunday school in his old congregation, 56. The number of Unitarians who have been presidents of the United States, 5. The number of UU congregations, 1,042. Numbers that he knew wouldn't answer the question, so he just answered,
It's a religion.
and sighed with relief when the teacher didn't ask the big question.
So what do you believe?
But Milo knew it was only a matter of time. So Milo and his parents came up with an answer for him. They called it his recess speech. It had 3 parts.
1. Unitarian Universalism is an old religion that grew out of Christianity. 2. UUs decide for themselves what they believe about religious ideas like God, Jesus, and life after death. 3. UUs believe we have a responsibility to make the world a better place, and that starts with treating people and the earth with love, kindness, and respect.
Milo liked that. He could remember 3 parts, and 3 was a lucky number for him.
Say that it's like a free way to discover truth and meaning, and there are 7 principles which we all believe in, and we follow those principles.
We learn about the church, about the principles, and fairness.
We mean that like everything is equal and everyone gets a chance.
We want to take care of our earth, because if we care for our earth, everyone is it's fair to everyone, and everyone is happier.
We all have a free and individual search for truth and meaning. Like, all get to search for truth and meaning on our own, and no one tells us what we need to do.
I really like all of the songs, and I also think it's a place that's very fair, and I like how everyone is welcome there.
Thank you so much to Katie and Viva and Allison. Oh, and Beth too. Now it's time to breathe. However we meet, we take time every week in our worship to enter into the quiet, to center ourselves, to make space in our minds and our hearts for the holy, however we consider it. To begin this time, first, we'll join together in our centering song, which is related to our monthly theme. Our song this month is Becoming by the UU minister, Reverend Mary Gregola. After that, we will sit together for a few minutes of shared silence. Then we will speak to one another of our joys and sorrows, and I will lead us in a meditation. Please now, settle into your chair. Breathe with me. And join in as you like in our centering song. Every week we share with one another the milestones of our lives, our joys and sorrows, so that we might know one another more fully and be knitted together in a living community. First, if you have a sorrow to share today, please type it into the chat box now, and I will read them aloud. It's not usual, but it seems that we have no sorrows we wish to share aloud, but I'm sure there are some unspoken within us this morning. So let us take a moment together to hold.
Reverend Anita, there's one.
Can you go ahead and read it, please?
Okay. Dave and Jean just found out their daughter Julia is at the pet hospital with her very ill dog. We are very concerned for her and her dog.
Thank you.
And then Cheryl Ringen, it's the 10-year anniversary of Lee's passing.
Thank you for reading those for me, Rebecca. They didn't show up for me, so I appreciate your stepping in there.
There's another one from James. Lots of people are reluctant to take the vaccine, and this will keep things getting worse and endangering others.
That is a sorrow. Let us take a moment to hold all these sorrows and all those unspoken as well with compassion and love. Let us reach out to all who are hurting today with our help and our care. I will now light one candle as a beacon of our care for all the sorrows, both spoken and unspoken today. And now I ask for all the joys that you'd like to share this morning with the congregation. Go ahead and type those into the chat box now. From Joyce Rodenheiser, a joy for the UU Caring Committee and all the other people and committees that keep our church going. Thank you, Joyce. From Florence, joy for Viva getting her cast off. Hooray. From the Goss family, Hannah rode a pony for the first time yesterday. From Ann Noonan, a candle of joy for my 2 adult children raised in this church. The youngest, who will graduate from UMass next month, moved the oldest back to Manhattan yesterday after her pandemic year in Melrose. I'm looking for any other joys. I don't see them. Here we go. One from Yvette Thompson. Yesterday was the 1-year anniversary of my dad's death from COVID. My sisters and I are finally able to plan an in-person celebration of life for him in October in Connecticut and on the Cape.
I apologize. That is, that's at my office name. It's Beth.
Oh,
That
Beth.
was from Beth Yearground.
Thank you, Beth. Now that makes better sense to me.
Yes.
I'm glad you're able to plan an in-person celebration for your father.
Thank you.
From Laura, this is from Alice and her daughter, joy that Grandma and Uncle Phil and Amy came to the service. Lots of grandparents visiting this weekend. That is a joy. From Randall, Margaret will celebrate her 94th birthday this week. Happy birthday to the one and only Margaret. Any other joys you'd like to share with our congregation today? From Ted, a candle of joy for vaccinated grandparents visiting. Yes, that is joy. Thank you, Ted. Now a little prayer over these joys. By sharing these joys, you remind us of the many, many joys life has to offer. You reconnect us with one another and you fill us with hope. Thank you. I now light one more candle to shine out our gratitude for all the many blessings in our lives. Thank you. Each of us is on our own religious journey, a path of spiritual becoming that starts in our childhood and lasts as long as we keep on exploring. For our meditation this morning, I want to offer you a poetic description of one such pathway. I invite you to listen and see if you recognize yourself in any of these places. This little essay is Map of the Journey in Progress by Victoria E. Safford. Here is where I found my voice and chose to be brave. Here's a place where I forgave someone against my better judgment, and I survived that, and unexpectedly, amazingly, I became wiser. Here's where I was once forgiven, was ready for once in my life to receive forgiveness and to be transformed. And I survived that also. I lived to tell the tale. This is the place where I said no, more loudly than I thought I ever could, and everybody stared, but I said no loudly anyway, because I knew it must be said. And those staring settled down into harmless, ineffective grumbling, and over me, they had no power anymore. Here's a time, and here's another, when I laid down my fear and walked right on into it, right up to my neck in that roiling water. Here's where cruelty taught me something. And here's where I was first astonished by gratuitous compassion and knew it for the miracle it was, the requirement it is. It was a trembling time. And here, much later, is where I returned the blessing, clumsily. It wasn't hard, but I was unaccustomed. It cycled round, and as best I could, I sent it back on out, passed the gift along. This circular motion around and round has no apparent end. Here's a place, a murky puddle, where I have stumbled and more than once fallen. I don't know yet what to learn there. On this site, I was outraged, and the rage sustains me still. It clarifies my seeing. And here's where something caught me, a warm breeze in late winter, bird song in late summer. And here's where I was told that something was wrong with my eyes, that I see the world strangely. And here's, yes, I know, I walk in beauty. Here is where I began to look with my own eyes and listen with my ears and sing my own song, shaky as it is. Here is where, by surgeon's knife, my heart was opened up. And here and here and here and here. These are the landmarks of conversion. Amen. Now is the time. If you are moved by our worship this morning, I invite you to donate using the orange button in the top right corner of our homepage at melroseuu.org. For April, our giving partner, chosen by the Green Sanctuary team, is Green Roots Chelsea, a community organization that works to achieve environmental justice and greater quality of life in the neighboring town of Chelsea, which has been hard hit by COVID-19. Half of our collection plate this whole month will go to Green Roots Chelsea. For our offertory music today, we are truly blessed. This is a virtual choir piece compiled over months for last year's GA, our annual UU convention. It's a hymn you'll recognize, but this glorious version of it is led by its actual composer, Dr. Issei Barnwell, who used to be a member of the group Sweet Honey in the Rock. You might recognize her incredible voice. Here she gathers with hundreds of the faithful in a joyous celebration, both of our UU roots and our UU wings. This is We Are from GA 2020.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one.
We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We are seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. What a great description of Unitarian Universalism. Last week, I preached about the third quarter phenomenon, how this stretch of the pandemic may feel extra challenging because we can maybe see the end, but we're not quite there yet. And we are exhausted, most of us. Sometimes in those moments when we feel lost, it can be helpful to remind ourselves of what we do know, what we do have to help us guide us on our way. Last week, we talked about the blessings of springtime, the beauty and diversity of flowers and trees and animals. And today I want to talk about the beauty and diversity of Unitarian Universalism, the faith that we have each discovered and rediscovered, this metaphorical place where our separate faith journeys intersect for a time, this gorgeous and complex heritage that challenges us in this moment to build a stronger and more equitable future. Just recently, in one of my many UU Facebook discussion groups, someone posed a question about our faith that was answered by about 30 different people, and their answers astounded me and fed me. So I wanted to share that with you. Here's the question. For those of you who were raised in our faith, what would you say were the greatest benefits? And here are some of the answers, anonymized. I grew up being taught that I held unknown capabilities, and with that, responsibilities. I had power. I could make things better, unquote. Someone else said, adults respected and protected me. Youth gatherings promised that the world could be creative and kind. I was taught emotional intelligence from a young age and learned healthy ways to process and express my emotions. I was raised to understand that asking hard questions doesn't threaten my faith, but deepens it. I learned that every person at every age is a valuable member of a community. I learned how to discern right from wrong in my own heart. Wow. If this is what we are teaching our children, then we are doing something right. Maybe we are doing many things right. As you heard this morning in our story, even some of our youngest RE folks already have a pretty solid understanding of our faith and its commitments. What about you? How has UUism shaped your life? Whether you were raised in our faith or came to it just yesterday, or maybe just this morning, I still want to hear your unique story, your unique journey. And I'm sure that other people would too. For today, I have a few reflections from other UUs to get you started about thinking about your journey. In 2018, the UUA published this book, Testimony, The Transformative Power of Unitarian Universalism, edited by Meg Riley. It contains about 50 personal stories about our faith. I have excerpted 5 of them for you to hear today, read by 5 of our church members. As you listen, please think about your own path to our church, how and when you were welcomed here, and how you welcome others here now. Think perhaps about how the simple act of welcome invites all of us to keep growing, to keep finding new and deeper capacities for openness, new and deeper capacity for love. 5 readings. The first one is from Ginger Lazarus. Ginger, would you please go ahead?
Good morning. I'm Ginger. I'm reading from an essay called Saving Lives by Roberta Finkelstein. In 1981, I had finally come back to church after a 10-year absence. I was pregnant with our first child, and my husband Barry and I both felt the need to be connected to a community of faith for all the same reasons that many people come to church initially, for the children. But we hadn't gotten involved at all. Most just came most Sundays and didn't really know anybody. Just before the baby was due, I signed up to join a women's group, thinking that as a new mom, I would need some kind of supportive and adult outlet. And then the unthinkable happened. The baby was stillborn. Devastated doesn't even begin to describe how we felt on that bleak December day when we arrived to attend the memorial service for our son Brian, a service held in the sanctuary, all decked out for Christmas. The minister, Ken Beach, was wonderful, present and supportive and eloquent in reminding our gathered friends and family that we had, in one moment, been bereaved and become parents. I will always be grateful for those words. Also present that day were some people that I didn't know, members of the women's group that I had not yet attended. They came, they brought food, they introduced themselves to me, assuring me that I was already a member of their group. The group became my lifeline in the following months. They were strangers who became friends, who welcomed me, cried with me, encouraged me, pushed me when I thought about giving up. My story is a story of pain and loss and gratitude and redemption. The church saved my life. And through this experience, I came to understand that the purpose of church is to save lives.
Thank you, Ginger. Next is Garen Boyd. Garen, are you there?
Good morning. I'm Garen Boyd. My reading is from Heart's Opening by Scott Samler Michael. I used to work as an electrician out of IBEW Local 24 in Baltimore. Near the entrance gate at one of the construction sites, next to the time clock, someone had placed a big arrow pointing down to a trash can. Above the arrow, a sign demanded, "Leave your feelings here." This was an unusually blatant display of the golden rule of the macho world of industrial construction. Your whole self is not welcome here. Now, there is some logic to discouraging emotional outbursts on construction sites. There's a job to be done, and it requires focus and precision. Especially in the electrical trade, a lack of focus can result in, well, fire and death. The construction site is not the only place our whole selves are not welcome. Our culture prefers us to keep our feelings to ourselves, especially when one of those feelings is sorrow. But the injunction of leave your feelings at the gate is repressive and corrosive. We are taught that this emotionless half self is the only self of worth and dignity. As a foreman, I kept my distance in many ways. The tough guy culture of the job site means that those in charge are especially forbidden to express much emotion, except occasional anger, some laughter, and the necessary attaboy for a job well done. In May 2003, I attended a service at First Unitarian Church of Baltimore. That Sunday, Reverend Bob Hardy's preached a sermon titled "Religion is for Lovers." Hardy proclaimed, "Religion is for lovers, lovers of truth, lovers of justice, lovers of powerful humanity." As I heard those words, the door to my heart opened wide. I started to nod and sob and then shake, trembling with tears. I was not alone. That day I realized that Unitarian Universalism granted me license to be completely human. It encouraged my whole self to enter into the room and shine forth in the company of folks covenanted to worship together and to hold one another. It countermanded the job site injunction against my emotional self. I had grown up a Southern Baptist, and this release felt like salvation, like being born again.
Thank you, Garen. Our third reader of 5 is Nyla. Nyla, are you there?
Yes. Good morning, I'm Nyla McCullough, and this reading is from an essay called "Not the Last to Need Saving" by Megan Dowdle. When I was 11 years old, I entered a New England Unitarian Universalist church for the first time on my own. After one session in the religious education program, I wanted to return every week. Arriving without my parents, I quickly became an adopted child of the church. A family would bring me along to the church retreat and make sure I had a ride to come serve food at the silent auction or to volunteer in the child care program. Looking back, I wonder what the members must have thought about this young girl who was always the first one asked to leave. Of course, what they didn't know then was that my home was not a safe place. I suffered consistent abuse by my father and experienced prolonged periods of silence and neglect. Some might call this hell. The weekends, when school's not in session, were the most dangerous times in the week. If there was a task at church I was allowed to do, I would volunteer to be there. If there was any community event or speaker, I would beg to go. My church family truly meant safety and survival at the most vulnerable times. Just like my fellow victims of trauma and abuse, as a child, I believed I had done something to deserve the harm at home. While I remember having dreams of somewhere else than here, I did not imagine a future for myself or even that my life would extend into adulthood. I do not believe it is an exaggeration to say that I would not have made it through high school without Unitarian Universalism. I'm grateful to have stepped into a tradition that rejects the idea of original sin, where we believe that every child is beautiful, every person is worthy of love and nurturing. I was saved by community. I was saved by love. I was saved by faith.
Thank you, Nyla. And now Florence has our fourth reading of 5. Florence.
Hi, I'm Florence Cordovano, and I'm reading from an essay called A Gift to Me by Aisha Hauser. Unitarian Universalism was a gift to me. I have experienced this faith as a way I can be in the world without having to subscribe to the dictates of creeds I don't agree with. However, it has been difficult to be a Unitarian Universalist as a woman of color, one who wants the faith to live out the values it espouses. One unexpected part of my transformation as a Unitarian Universalist was an invitation to make peace with the religion of my upbringing. This didn't happen intentionally. In fact, the person who offered me the invitation has no idea to this day that she helped me become a better UU. One day, this person asked me, "What do you like about having been raised Muslim?" I answered, "Nothing. I didn't like anything. It wasn't positive." She looked at me steadily and said, "It couldn't have been all bad. You turned out fine. There must have been something good." I said I'd think about it. I pondered that question for a few days, and I found an answer. Growing up Muslim, I never internalized God as a man or even a person. I was raised believing that God is an energy and light that humans can't comprehend. This helped me to easily transition to our Unitarian idea of one source. I was also taught about the value of sacrifice, which comes from Ramadan, and the idea of voluntarily giving up food and water to reflect and more fully understand those who live in poverty. My mother instilled in me a deep sense of justice. No matter how little we had, we spent 2 years on welfare and food stamps. My mother always gave a tithe to remind us that someone else always has less, and we always have to share. When I thought about how the Muslim faith provided me with comfort and solace from the ideas that God is light and of the importance of sacrifice, I had a profound realization that I carry with me an important part of my childhood faith while being a Unitarian Universalist. It is the pluralism of Unitarian Universalism that encourages my commitment to hold on to what is spiritually nurturing and let go of what is spiritually harmful.
Thank you, Florence. Now with our last reading is Paul Rutz. Paul?
Good morning, this is Paul Rutz. This reading is from an essay called Life Altering Grace by Manish Mishra Marzetti. A friend had told me about a Unitarian Universalist church, so I discussed with my partner the idea of trying one. Talking through the possibility with him, I was clear that any community that didn't accept us for who we were, openly gay men in a committed relationship, was not going to work for me. I also was not going to convert to anything, and so respect for my Hindu heritage was important. For my partner, an atheist and a scientist, a spiritual experience without a reliance on the supernatural was important. As he put it, any mumbo jumbo and I'm out of there. This way we agreed on our bottom lines, and decided to attend All Souls Church the very next day. I was scared witless as we entered the church that Sunday morning. The butterflies and gastrointestinal gymnastics roiling my stomach were on a par with what one might expect before a really important job interview. We didn't know where to sit, so we moved up to the front, the seats not often taken. It was only after we had settled in that I noticed the number of older folks around us. My default assumptions about older Americans kicked in, and I immediately began fretting about what it meant for us as a gay couple to be surrounded by all these elders. The church back then had a practice of passing the microphone around and inviting guests to introduce themselves. I introduced myself and my partner as a couple visiting for the first time. My stomach began to sink further as there was no applause, just silence. I barely remember the rest of the worship service. I remember the whole experience feeling very Christian. I thought to myself, this was probably a mistake. I'm sure they don't want us here. The service ended. I grabbed my partner's hand and we headed out, down the church's central aisle toward the back doors. Until that is, one of the grannies in a row behind us shoved her walker into the aisle, blocking my way. She got out, looked at me, reached out over her walker and embraced me in a hug, whispering in my ear, "I'm so glad you're here in our community. Welcome." It was all I could do not to burst into tears right then and there. And still decades later, I weep at remembering how welcome and loved she made me feel in that moment. To me, it was a radical hospitality embodied. Every fear I had about being in that space with a community I did not yet know evaporated in that moment of unbridled, unhesitant welcome. Every stereotype I had about elders not accepting gays and lesbians vanished. It was as if my own grandmother were hugging me and welcoming me home after a long absence. It was, in fact, exactly that, a welcome back to spiritual community after a very long absence.
Thank you so much, Paul, and thank you to all of our 5 readers. They are beautiful stories, and that's why I chose them for today. I wanted us to hear from a diversity of Unitarian Universalists, different people to tell us about their journeys here and beyond. I hope that these stories have inspired you to reflect on your UU faith journey, the welcome you got, and the welcome that you give. Coincidentally, maybe not, our worship theme for next month is story. Wouldn't it be great if next month some of you stepped forward to tell us about how UUism has shaped your life? Together as individual UUs and as a faith community, we are every day building a new way to live in this world, a way of peace and freedom, love and hope. Each of us is part of the mighty stream of our faith. Each of us is a part of that grand vision. Each of us in our own unfolding, in our own becoming, as we become more strong, more free, more loving. Each has a role to play in creating a world that is more strong, more free, more loving. Please join with me now in our closing hymn called Building a New Way.
We are building a new way.
Thank you, choir. Now our benediction. May these words of Isai Barnwell go with you. We are lovers of life and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We're makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. Amen.